Hello everybody, and welcome to Ancient Architects. Please subscribe now to get the latest ancient history news and independent research from around the world. If you saw my last video, you will have seen the evidence I put forward to say that the 3rd Dynasty Pyramid Complex of Djoser was originally an ancient waterworks, a site for drinking water and possibly used for irrigation and domestic purposes. For various reasons, I believe it dates back to the 1st Dynasty, and this includes the radiocarbon dating of bones that were found, as well as a vast quantity of stone vessels inscribed with the names of 1st and 2nd Dynasty kings. I won't go over the detail in this video, but I've linked my previous one in the description below if you wish to catch up. As I said at the end of the video, I've recently come across the writings of John Blake, where he presents a great deal of supporting evidence that the 2 vertical shafts in the Djoser complex were once wells, and the surrounding Great Trench is some kind of canal. This video is a follow-up or a part 2, and there will also be a part 3 and possibly even a part 4, because in all honesty, there is a great deal more to say. The main subject of this video is a little known ancient document that relates to Pharaoh Djoser, and is known as the Famine Stealer. This stela is not contemporary with the Old Kingdom, it was written during the Ptolemaic period, but many experts believe that it is copied from an ancient source. It discusses a 7-year drought and famine during the reign of Djoser in the 3rd Dynasty, and because of my belief that the Djoser Pyramid Complex was once an ancient waterworks, this stela of course got my attention. The stela is an inscribed block of natural granite, roughly rectangular in shape and written in hieroglyphs. At the top of the stela, we see the gods Khnum, Satis and Anuket, while Djoser is depicted facing them, carrying offerings in his outstretched hands. In places it is broken, the main break being a natural fissure that runs through the centre, and sections of the text are unreadable. But the sections that can be read do offer a number of interesting details. There are various interpretations of the text, and it seems that some people have wrongly assumed certain details that are not actually mentioned. So instead of taking someone's interpretation at face value, I've decided to just look at the best examples I can find of the translated words and look at them without embellishment. I'm using the translation from Jason Colavito's website, which is an 1891 translation by Camden M. Coburn, but adapted with modern language. I've also used another source, as Colavito leaves out a couple of sections. I won't read the text on the stela word for word, as it is long and I think many people would switch off, but I will give a synopsis of the content. In the description below I've linked the full translations if you do wish to read more. The events recorded on the stela took place in the 18th year of King Djoser's reign. The pharaoh was wallowing in sadness on his throne because the water god Hapi had failed him. The Nile Flood, known as the annual inundation, had not come for 7 years. There was a severe lack of crops and food in general, and people were robbing from one another and breaking the laws of the land in desperation. People were in distress, and Djoser was losing control, and so the king consulted Imhotep, his chief priest, sage, scribe and vizier, and asked him to find the birthplace of the river Nile, and the name of the god who dwells there as its great protector. Imhotep travels to Hermopolis to the House of Thoth and discovered that the location that Djoser was looking for is Elephantine, an island situated on the Nile close to Aswan, and the god that resides there is Khnum, the creator deity. Imhotep travels to the island and he wrote an account of what was there and reported back to Djoser. On the west and in the south, he notes there is a divine house or temple of Khnum, as well as a dwelling place for holy animals, a royal pyramid, and every kind of obelisk. The gods represented in the temple include Satis, Anubis, Hapi, Shu, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Horus, Isis, and Nephthys. He notes that in the east there is a mountain containing all of the ores, stone and precious minerals that are needed for building, from which the temple and the structures on Elephantine are built. Imhotep then says that they, being him, his king and his people, must learn the names of the stony material in the midst of the rocky mountains, the desert and the river, and then he lists them, one of the stones being interpreted as granite. He then says that they must learn the names of the precious stones such as gold, silver, copper, iron, lapis lazuli and so on. The Stealer doesn't give a great deal more information on Imhotep's visit to the island, but I read this as it was here where he learned the knowledge of building and materials, and the different types of minerals and rocks that are available in Egypt. This is relevant because Imhotep is known as a great builder, the architect of the Step Pyramid and all of the new stonework that appeared in Egypt. After learning the information from Imhotep, Djoser performs a purification ceremony in honour of the gods of Elephantine, with a procession and an offering of bread, geese and cattle and all of the good things he had available. When the king finally slept, his heart was in life and happiness, and he found Khnum standing in front of him, pleased with Djoser's actions and dedication. Khnum then speaks to Djoser and says that he has sent the king precious stones previously unknown to him so that he can build temples, rebuild ruins and inlay the eyes of statues. He explains that he is the creator god who has power over the river Nile and states that he will allow it to rise again for Djoser. Without missing a year, and Egypt will be fruitful once again. The people will have plenty and the famine will pass. Djoser woke and was happy, and from then on said he would always honour the god Khnum and his temple in Elephantine with great offerings. That was a very condensed version of the Famine Stealer, and on the face of it, you may think it has nothing to do with the Pyramid of Djoser complex, but there is a lot we can dissect, analyse and take away from it. For a start, we now know there is a legend written in the Ptolemaic period of around 250 BC that states that during Djoser's reign there was a real problem with the water supply across Egypt. There was no yearly inundation for 7 years, which means not just the Nile, but the groundwater levels were low all year round. This gives us a possible reason why it appears the ancient wells of the Djoser complex went out of use. The inundation had stopped and groundwater levels were low, and hence the wells dried up. It also explains why I believe that Djoser dug a huge crude maze of tunnels beneath the Step Pyramid that emanate from the central well. I speculated in my last video that they were dug out and away from the main central shaft as people were looking for the source of groundwater, to refill the central well and to restart the Ancient Waterworks. I think this is why the vast majority of these tunnels look crude and unfinished, because many were nothing more than exploratory work. Also, in my last video, I speculated that the 40,000 1st and 2nd Dynasty stone jars, jugs, pots and so forth that were found in the Djoser complex may indicate A. when the site was in use as a well, and B. when the site went out of use. So, if there was a 7-year drought at the beginning of the 3rd Dynasty, this may explain some of the anomalies we see at the Djoser complex. The stone pottery vessels all predate the reign of Djoser because by the 3rd Dynasty, the wells were dry and the maze of tunnels were created as Djoser's people searched for water. It is possible that the heap of 40,000 broken vessels that were seemingly thrown into 6 of the 11 small wells on the east side of the pyramid were actually offerings to the gods. If there really was a drought and a famine, maybe this was the Egyptians trying to appease the gods, trying everything they could to get the main well beneath the Djoser pyramid to fill with water once again, and to bring back the annual inundation. Remember, John Blake claims the pyramid complex of Djoser was once known as the name shown on the screen, meaning libation of the deities or the drinking place of the gods. So maybe this was viewed as some kind of holy well and an obvious place to give offerings if you wanted to appease the gods and bring back the water supply. Another thing we get from the Famine Stealer is that both the account of Imhotep and the words of Khnum to Djoser state that the knowledge of building with stone came from Elephantine. Historically speaking, Imhotep has gone down in history as the man responsible for the first Egyptian pyramid, the Step Pyramid. It was during Djoser's reign when stone architecture became more ornate and certainly more widespread. The great Manetho also said that Imhotep was the man who invented the method of stone dress building during Djoser's reign. So, how did Imhotep learn these skills so quickly? Skills that nobody showed before him. Where did he get his inspiration to build the first pyramid? Well, if we believe that the Famine Stealer is based on truth, it actually tells us where Imhotep discovered the knowledge, Elephantine Island. This place may be the key to understand the sudden and rapid increase in knowledge with regards to stone building in Egypt in the 3rd and 4th dynasties and the origins of the pyramid building age. Going back to the old Ptolemaic legend and looking in more detail at the architecture of Elephantine Island that was noted by Imhotep, and he mentions not just a temple, obelisks and holy stables, but he also mentions a pyramid. If the Famine Stealer legend is a true account, then it means that there must be a pyramid on Elephantine Island, and one that predates what we are told is the first pyramid of Egypt, which is Djoser's step pyramid in Saqqara. Now things get even more interesting, because archaeology may even back up such a claim. On the northwest part of what has been identified as an Old Kingdom settlement, on the southern end of the island of Elephantine, there is a small granite step pyramid, and although experts believe that this dates back to the 3rd Dynasty, evidence suggests it could be even older. It is known as the Pyramid of Elephantine, or alternatively the Yebu Pyramid, and could be the oldest pyramid in Egypt, and the inspiration for all the larger Old Kingdom pyramids that came after it. Information on this pyramid is limited to say the least, but the brilliant Manu Safezadeh has written an extremely important paper that I've linked below. All of the pictures are his, and I've left some links in the description so you can follow Manu's fantastic work. The pyramid originally had 3 or 4 steps or tiers. It is only 5.1 metres tall, but experts believe that it once stood at 10.5 or 12.5 metres in height. It was built on a 23.7 metre long square platform, has sides 18.46 metres long, and is made of locally sourced pink granite. Today, it is in very poor condition, and there is no chamber system inside it, and it appears to be nothing more than a monument, and even the Egyptologists say that this isn't a tomb. Some people think it was built by the final 3rd Dynasty king, known as Huni, whilst others say by the first 4th Dynasty king, Snefru. But some say it is an ancient part of the Temple of Khnum, and if the legend of the Famine Stealer is true, then maybe it does predate the 3rd Dynasty, just as the Djoser complex predates the pyramid on the site. I propose that the Step Pyramid of Djoser, which is built over what I believe is a 1st Dynasty well, could simply be a larger version of the Step Pyramid at the Temple of Khnum, which the Ptolemaics said was home to the god who controlled the River Nile. Maybe Imhotep went to Elephantine Island, learned sacred ancient knowledge of stone building from the Temple of Khnum, and brought this knowledge back to Saqqara. If true, then maybe the Step Pyramid of Djoser was never any sort of mortuary building for the pharaoh, but was actually a temple complex dedicated to Khnum, the god who controlled the water supply, and it was therefore built to honour this god at the end of the famine. As stated, the pyramid on Elephantine Island has been attributed to King Huni, because a granite cone with Huni's name was found close by. But all this shows is that there was granite stonework on the island from the 3rd Dynasty, and doesn't give us any indication of the age of the small granite pyramid. Furthermore, there was also a seal found close by, inscribed with the name Nebka, a 3rd Dynasty king who came before Huni or after Djoser, with another 2 pharaohs in between. So we find evidence of activity in this area before Huni, and if the Ptolemaic legend is true, the pyramid near the Temple of Khnum could well predate the 3rd Dynasty. In fact, there is no archaeological evidence to say that the Pyramid of Elephantine Island isn't pre-3rd Dynasty. This pyramid is one of 7 small cultic pyramids in Egypt, with this one being the only pyramid in all Egypt being entirely made of granite. Some people, including Manu Safezadeh, believes it is oriented to celestial objects, and that small cultic pyramids could have been used for measuring time as well as the flow of the Nile. So again, we see another link between pyramids and water. He also believes it is possible that the shapes and sizes of these small cultic pyramids may have influenced the larger pyramids of northern Egypt, encoding astronomical knowledge into their design, their geometry and dimensions. It is a complicated subject, but I would urge you to check out the paper from Safezadeh that is linked below. It may be a mere coincidence that there is a legend written on the Famine Stealer that Djoser ordered his chief advisor Imhotep to visit Elephantine Island in the 3rd Dynasty, in search of the god of the Nile Khnum, a visit that the legend says results in him learning about building stone and minerals, and then Imhotep goes down in history as a master builder of stone. It may also be a coincidence that there is a significant pyramid on the island at the Temple of Khnum, the home of the god that controls the water supply of Egypt. This pyramid is a step pyramid that dates back to possibly before the 3rd Dynasty, which some researchers believe encoded important knowledge such as the flow of the Nile. Following his visit, Imhotep builds Egypt's first large pyramid. Maybe it is a mere coincidence that Djoser built an enormous complex over what I believe is an ancient major source of water, and was known as the libation of the deities at the time, a time that the Stela says that Egypt was going through a major drought and famine. Maybe it's a mere coincidence that the Famine Stealer says that Djoser would always respect the god Khnum for ending the famine and bringing back the inundation, and then he builds an enormous step pyramid which was originally 4-tiered, and there was a 4-tiered step pyramid on Elephantine Island that may well be early dynastic in origin. As stated, there is a body of thought that the Famine Stealer is based on a far more ancient source, maybe even a contemporary source from the Old Kingdom, and if so, it may tell us the source of knowledge for the stone building of the Pyramid Age, Elephantine Island, the inspiration for the large pyramids, which is the small cultic granite pyramid, and also why Djoser had Imhotep build a pyramid over a source of water, as a sign of devotion to Khnum, who was the god who controlled the water supply of ancient Egypt. Maybe the true function and purpose of pyramid structures can also be found on Elephantine Island. And all this shouldn't be taken with a pinch of salt, and we should not underestimate the importance of Elephantine Island and the Temple of Khnum, because it did have huge importance throughout the entirety of dynastic history. Archaeologists say that this temple, also referred to as the Temple of Satis, the goddess who is the personification of the Nile inundation, was founded around 3200 BC, in pre-dynastic times, when experts say it was like a cultic niche lodged between 3 granite boulders. It was enlarged in the 1st and 2nd dynasties, and rebuilt in the 3rd, possibly by Djoser and Imhotep. Throughout history, it continued to be rebuilt and enlarged, as seen in the 5th and 6th dynasties, in the Middle Kingdom in the 11th dynasty, in the New Kingdom in the 18th dynasty under Thutmose III, and also in the late period in the 30th dynasty by King Nectanebo II. It also grew in the Ptolemaic and Greco-Roman periods. It may be the only temple in Egypt that has had continuous use and importance since pre-dynastic times all the way up to Roman times. And this is where we, as independent researchers that are interested in the origins of the pyramids, should begin to focus our attention. I'll leave you with these stills from Elephantine Island from a video from Brian Forster that is linked below. Look at this box made from one solid piece of granite, as well as other incredibly precise granite stonework. Not only does this place show evidence of ancient high technology, Elephantine Island may be the source of this knowledge. Interestingly, the Geopolymer Institute also believe a similar thing, interpreting the part of the Famine Stealer that talks of ores, minerals and stones as a recipe for manufacturing artificial stone. I believe it is certainly possible that the secrets of ancient Egyptian stonework were held at Elephantine Island, secrets that were learned by Imhotep and that inspired the age of pyramid building, and this old dilapidated structure may well be the inspiration. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ancient Architects. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, and please leave a comment below. Thank you very much.